Oh, hold on. I think I'm gonna have to hand this off.
Oh, Rachel, you gonna be okay? What's the problem? What's got you in tears? Huh. What did Trump just do, I wonder? Oh, it's magnificent, isn't it? And it's a story I'm going to bring you here in just 1 minute. Don't worry, Rachel's not alone. You can send her a box of Kleenex if you'd like. But you see, Trump just debilitated his number one enemy, ending years of not only Trump's number one enemy, but yours too. All of ours. Goes by many names. Goes by the military media complex. Goes by the MSM. Goes by CNN, MSNBC, Aaron Rupar, and go through a litany of different names. Those who tried to make you believe you were always wrong, that you were on the outside looking in, that the things you believed in were perverse, inaccurate, incorrect, misinformation. But what goes around comes around, huh? Because now the world's changed. And the world was always there, by the way. All they did was mask it from you, hide it from you, change reality, twist truth. And now there's such an onslaught, a shock and awe campaign being brought on by Trump that they can't keep up, so they had a choice. Fight or flee. I know it's a basic human dynamic, isn't it? But did they fight? They've issued a lot of corrections. They've issued a lot of, here's why we got it wrong. And how is that exactly going to build their viewership, their readership, memberships plummeting because it didn't work? And so Trump, rather than throwing the car into neutral, slams down the accelerator. Exactly what we needed him to do. And they don't have the capacity, nor ability, nor desire to keep up. And we're going to expand on that. We've expanded on it every day since Trump took office. It is a continual stream of information. It's a continual update of information, of which by the time we're done broadcasting, the news has already changed. Additional maneuvers, just like yesterday's monster broadcast that I did, because Lisa wanted to take the day off. Thank goodness we did, because people responded. And they watched, and they learned that the plan goes far deeper than Trump's letting you know, because he's doing it by overt and covert means. Oh, I can't wait till the covert parts start to go in full motion. And now with Kristi Noem and Peter Hegseth confirmed and John Ratcliffe confirmed, we've once again find out, and will continue to find out, that everything we were told was a lie. Things you were downstacked for, blacklisted for, sometimes shut down if you said the wrong thing. Well, none of those were lies, were they? That's a story I'm going to continue right after I ask you a huge favor. Your support is becoming ever more necessary, and my appreciation for your support is growing every day. Those of you who've done financial donations here, thank you so much. It's really the only way the news keeps coming. We work just about 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Occasionally we may hit a day of burnout, but not too many. But I don't use sponsors and I don't use advertisers to fund this effort. I use you. I ask it and I provide more news in return. So all of you have joined as a membership here. Thank you so much. I hope those of you who haven't joined as a member will. It's truly the only way this news keeps coming. If you want something in addition from me, and I give it every day, and Lisa gives it every day, we bought our own platform, restrictedrepublic.com, one of the few newscasters to do that. We did that to assure that the news can continue to stream to you no matter what occurred. If you haven't been there yet, again, restrictedrepublic.com, we need you there today. Yesterday's membership grew exponentially because people finally realized, wait, now all their broadcasts, all their platforms are in one home, plus that home contains exclusive content. Content, nowhere else can you find it. And there's a reason for that, trust me. It's unfiltered, it's uncensored, it's hard-hitting facts, no commercials, no interruptions, because again, we're beholden to no one but you. And that's the way we wanted it. I hope you'll get there today and check it out. But now let's get on with this broadcast. So how many ways is Trump shocking the system right now? I showed you yesterday he's sending military to the border. Promise made, promise kept. Now he's already rebuilding the border wall. Oh, it needed to start. As the military reinforces what's there, he is going to build, baby, build, just like he's going to drill, baby, drill. It ain't going to change, and he's not going to stop. Of course, he shut down the CBP One app, and the mainstream media once again tried to make you feel bad. He's just following the law. He's securing our border. Emotions will run deep through many of these changes, I promise you that, and I'm not trying to disrespect those affected by it, but there is a legal immigration process, and it will continue to exist. He hasn't shut that down. He's just asking for people to follow the legal process in place. That's it. Nothing more and nothing less. But why such an effort? Because, one, we the people gave him a mandate for that effort. But he's also saving lives. There is a dark-seated underbelly to all this immigration that people don't want to talk about. Until you hear statistics like this, and then you begin to understand why.
Now, the second wave that Tom Home and the borders are for Trump has told me about, and all of this will focus on those missing children, hundreds of thousands of them that we know. And that number has started to already come down, Emily, from 300,000. So they've found about 75 to 80,000 of those kids already. If they can get the list of these guys, 4 full days in office for Trump, if they can get the list of where some of those kids have been, and they've been identifying it, since the election, going after them and trying to find those little ones, what in the world was Biden's administration doing? What was Secretary of Homeland Mayorkas doing when he said to the committees on Capitol Hill, we don't know where those kids are, I'll look into it? No, dude, you obviously had a better way to find them, and you didn't do your job. I can't.
What a monster statement. Mayorkas sat there in front of that committee and says he has no idea where these children are. Now, Trump is a smart man. His administration is effective. But they couldn't have just developed that overnight. They couldn't have just magically found all these kids and had inspectors across the country locating them prior to him taking office. No, the system had to already be in place. Almost to the point where maybe these children were already logged somewhere. They knew where they were, or they knew who these missing children were with. For Trump to get the result of 75 to 80,000 children in such a short period of time, man, that begs a lot of questions, doesn't it? Who's got culpability in this? Who knew? Man, there better be people called to task, because there's nothing that bothers me more than anyone who hurts children. Anyone. And for him to be able to do that, I can almost guarantee you there was a list, and they knew exactly where they were at, and they lied to the American people like they continued to do. But so many publications just covered it up, brushed it aside. Oh, they make it something you can't talk about. Isn't that convenient? Trump's just shell-shocking from every corner he can. Did you read this? New York Times putting it out. Trump bars transgender women from U.S. prisons for female inmates. He sent them back to the correct prison. People are going to be upset by this? Remember what he said. Moving forward, it's male or female, biologically driven. And so he's made changes. Because if you find out who is getting into those female prisons, identifying as a female, and causing mass chaos and disruption, you'll understand why he had to do it so quickly. He's even protecting our prison population. I know some of the maneuvers have been covered up. You heard about Pritzker going crazy, right? ICE raided a Chicago public school. You see how horrible and cruel this is? Problem. It wasn't ICE. Now, if you look down below in the reader context, oops, sorry about that. If you look down below in the reader context, U.S. Secret Service was investigating a threat that led them to the school. So in other words, do you see the manipulation there? A threat called in, potentially, maybe a reporter got wind of it so they could blame ICE. That wasn't the threat at all, was it? A threat got called into the Secret Service. ICE wasn't there, so be very careful when consuming mainstream media right now. They're hurt. They're debilitated. Trump has kneecapped them. And they're making a conscious choice here. If you feel so defeated, sometimes you won't fight anymore. If you think anything you do won't make a difference, and Trump is moving so fast to make sure they feel that nothing they do will make a difference. Every nominee they've put up has been contested, huh? Ratcliffe went through the easiest. Hegseth went through his battle. Kristi Noem, well, she got a lot of votes. But even her ceremony didn't go according to plan. You see her walk in and walk right back out. Where does she end up? It's Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's home to be sworn in. More of a private ceremony, a little bit more personal. But we have many more to do, don't we? Kash Patel next week. Is he's getting his arms around government. But who does Pete Hegseth think right off the bat? This man so immoral, so unjust, such a horrible, despicable human being. But yet, who did he give thanks to exactly?
All praise and glory to God. His will be done, and we're grateful to be here. And as I said in my hearing, it was Jesus and Jenny. I would not be here without you, sweetheart. Thank you so much.
Wow. A government that believes in God and country and family and marriage. Boy, the mainstream media wanted you to think this was something entirely different, didn't they? They wanted you to think that this was a government of reprehensible individuals, Nazis, as they continue to push the storyline, getting into the consciousness of our younger generation because it's such an easy meme or post. Look at the Hitler symbol. Look at what Elon Musk did. Don't look at what Kamala Harris did or the multitude of other people did. Nah, skip that because it makes me feel like I know what I'm talking about. Now you fell for the mainstream media manipulation once again because it's all they ever do. But Trump's hitting them from every corner on every facet of government so fast that they are just praying to keep up. But those same kids who are posting about these Hitler symbols also are going to benefit from Donald J. Trump. You know, there's no tax on tips. I'm amazed to see all these TikTokers and all these folks on Facebook trying to point the finger of blame at Trump, but yet they're the ones who will benefit financially from him being in office.
The hiring of any new IRS agents, you know, they hired or tried to hire 88,000 new workers to go after you, and we're in the process of developing a plan to either terminate all of them or maybe we'll move them to the border. I think we're going to move them to the border. Well, they're allowed to carry guns. You know, they're so strong on guns, but these people are allowed to carry guns, so we'll probably move them to the border.
We covered that for years. How many guns and bullets the IRS was allowed to purchase. The IRS, a group of accountants, not law enforcement officials, but they wanted them to be law enforcement officials. Actually, they wanted them to be enforcement against you and I. Any opposing viewpoint, the politicization of yet another government division, and Trump pulls it away and then gives them the overall threat of maybe we'll send them to the border and then they can use those guns to help us out. But man, the tears coming out of the other side are streaming right now. Government still shell-shocked as to why they have to come back to work, not feeling safe, not feeling secure. After what you've done for 4 years, yeah, you're going to probably question your efforts. All of them cleaning out their inboxes, deleted folders, trying to put everything in the trash bin of history, but it's too late. They've already got a record of everything, trust me. There's only so much you can try to cover up, and that's why in each executive order that Trump's put out, he is very clear that he would like more information, as I've covered time and time again. That information is building a larger web, a bigger dragnet. This is one of the largest concerted efforts of government cleaning house that has ever been seen in the history of this great United States of America. And it will continue because there's so much that they've blamed you and I for doing. All we were trying to do was focus, research, study, report, identify, and isolate. What were we doing that for? To give you the truth. And so many, and through many of the tech titan platforms, you remember how many of you were probably blacklisted or banned altogether for now reporting on what the New York Times gets to report on now. CIA now favors lab leak theory to explain COVID's origins. New York Times, for all fact checkers out there. I'm sorry, is that not true either? It wasn't for history, now was it? But I guess now you don't have a choice anymore because your viewerships are tanking, plummeting. So now you'll talk about the truth. Because once big business for you was suppression. It made you feel all powerful, all warm and fuzzy inside, that you were able to silence dissenting opinions. And the administration was driven off that. And so you got all highfalutin, made your millions of dollars. But now what's happening to your readership? That's right, it's tanking, isn't it? Because even they realized that all you were doing is feeding them lies. And because of Trump's outstanding victory, your viewership feels defeated. And you led to that defeat. And it's one of the most monumental tasks that Trump has already succeeded in, because now he's making everyone feel like resistance is futile. He's debilitating his number one enemy, our number one enemy, the mainstream media. But the CIA wasn't the only one to report on this. I covered the House committee that also covered the same origin belief. We've covered everything that they told you was a lie, and how dare you dig into it, and how dare you identify accuracy and fact. You can't do that. The FBI not allowed to even brief Biden on the theory. So all government entities were working in one direction, and now Trump will show you what that direction is, and as he does that, he will erode more faith in the system. There's still some holdouts to believe somewhere there's no way possible that every government agency would work against we the people, but folks, they did. Every single one. And now you're seeing him gut department by department. And he's not going to stop there. He's going to continue to go not only local, but global. I know he promised to end the Ukraine-Russia war on day one, and that was a very short-sighted promise. He shouldn't have said that. But nonetheless, he's now trying to get a resolution. It will be one of his biggest victories. And he calls out Zelensky here in this interview.
And also big sanctions. And I don't want to do that. You know, I love the Russian people. They're great people. I don't want to do that, but we got to get this war ended. And if they don't make a settlement like fast, and Zelensky, I will say this, he wants to settle now. He's had enough. He shouldn't have allowed this to happen either. No. You know, if he's no angel, right. He shouldn't have allowed this war to happen.
Ooh, poor Zelensky. What's he going to do when he wakes up in the morning? I've lost another friend. I'm being called out for all the money I took and then crossed the border with it and made it disappear. But you see, it wasn't only Zelensky. It wasn't only the letter agencies. No, it was the entire administration. One of the major rules of government is we are not here to support a terrorist organization, right? Well, then why, I ask you, did the U.S. share intelligence with Syria's new regime? Well, they pulled the bounty from him, but they did not change the designation of terrorist organization. And now the Washington Post reporting that the U.S. shared intelligence with a terrorist organization. You see, we're not done digging yet, folks. We're just beginning the deep dive into what's coming. But maneuver after maneuver, you know who's on your screen? You probably don't. It's okay. I don't blame you if you don't. That was the acting director of national intelligence. Has now been ousted by Trump. As the title reads, Trump names a new acting director for national intelligence, ousting a Biden official associated with DEI initiatives. The Trump administration has named Laura Shaw as the new acting director of national intelligence, replacing Stacey Dixon, who was on your screen, the Biden administration's top deputy in the office, who helped lead efforts to diversify the ranks of intelligence, because intelligent is something I would call into question, because we saw what eroded in this great republic of the United States as our intelligence apparatus was compromised, and we fell behind our number one enemies. They wanted that silent. They didn't want you to know that. Now, don't worry about building the military. Don't worry about protecting against China and everyone else who's coming after us. Now, let's just sidebar that. We're going to continue to persecute Trump. That way we can cover up everything else we're not doing, just like the border crisis, just like Alejandro Mayorkas, just like the 80,000 children that were found within just a couple weeks that could not even be identified before. It's sick, folks. It's a sickness. So now we await the Tulsi Gabbard nomination. We'll see what happens next week with her and Kash Patel as Trump continues to build. But I missed something on this yesterday, and I must apologize to you. I'll always come out and tell you when I said something wrong. The 17 inspector generals terminated, most of them being Trump appointees. That was not inaccurate. Trump learned who the turncoats are now. And so he's eradicating them one by one. But there was another person within that I missed. I said Horowitz was one that was not fired. There was an additional, General Joseph V. Kafari Jr., the embattled and embroiled and sued and everything else. Probably why Trump associates with him a little bit. Joseph Kafari right there. DHS IG committed substantial misconduct and government watchdog fines. So the watchdog was reported on by another watchdog, and hence he had to settle. But what is Joseph Kafari investigating may tell you why he was not terminated. Federal watchdog probe expands to include missing January 6 Secret Service texts. He's the one investigating the Secret Service. It may have been very short-sighted to get rid of him, or Trump and him have already had a talk, because there is still folks within those organizations that have a lot of questions to answer. If you put a bullet through my ear, I guarantee you're going to have a lot of questions to answer. If you put all my supporters in prison for 4 years, I guarantee you're going to have a lot of questions to answer. If one of the major suspects within it, the pipe bomber, is yet to be identified, you have a lot of questions to answer. And so I wanted to make that correction, as I always will with you, so you know here, even if we make a mistake, I'll be the first one to cover it. But you saw up on your screen there quickly. I don't know exactly how to bring this other than how it frames into the overall message of this video. The mainstream media will recover eventually. It's taking a lot longer than normal. Normally they would have fired up immediately, but they're not this time. And you already see it in Daily Mail, who will never back down. Trump makes dramatic pivot on stance towards the World Health Organization's days after ordering exit. Am I going to cover this story? No, because it's single source. I don't do single source news until I can confirm via 2 or 3 sources. We won't cover it, but I use it as an example of how they will manipulate truth, they will twist fact, and they will be working to assure to show you somehow that Trump is either making errors or completely ineffective. So look for these titles, but always assure, if I'm not here, you miss a title, that you go and find 2 to 3 sources before you declare anything to even be worthy of researching as fact. Because this will start to expand. The more Trump does, the more they'll recover, the more they'll start to expand on titles that will mislead the American public. It's all they know how to do, because true reporting is very, very difficult for them, just like true reporting on everything America cares about, like those drones flying up in the air. Well, Trump has finally spoken a little bit about it now.
Is it anything, these drones, is it anything that people need to be worried
No, I think
about?
it's terrible. I would like to find out what it is and tell the people.
And can you commit to some kind of...
In fact, I'd like to do that. Could we find out what that was, Susie? Okay? Yeah, why don't we find out immediately? I mean, I can't imagine it's an enemy, or there would have been, people would have gotten blown up all over. Maybe they were testing things. I don't know why they wouldn't have said what it was. They had a lot of them flying over Bedminster, which is interesting, right?
That's where I identify with Trump most. He's very passive aggressive. Hey, Susie, would you mind looking into that real quick? Kind of funny they were flying over Bedminster. You would assume if, they were an enemy that people would have been reporting on it. Maybe we were testing something. It's a sleight of hand he did there. Remember, overt and covert means. That one he's going to be a little bit more sensitive about, which does kind of concern me a bit. But nonetheless, he has two ways of telling you something, through executive order and through a little passive-aggressive sleight of hand. He will expose what's going on, just like he will with JFK and MLK and RFK and everything else, and everybody freaking out over that, but it all goes back to the security apparatus. Because if I was him, the number one targets I have that I will be identifying all the discrepancies within is the CIA and the FBI and Homeland Security. Those three are my top, far and away. IRS is easy to contend with. Terminate the employees that were hired to audit each and every one of us into oblivion. Or, as he said, moving to the border, which is a stroke of brilliance. Get everybody back to Washington, D.C., get my appointees in place, get their armies in place, and then start identifying every adverse player to the America First agenda. Period. Done. And he's getting there quickly. But what's hurting the left so bad this time? Besides Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the jokes. Could you believe that they actually had still millions and millions of people voting for Kamala Harris? That's how good of a job they did at getting America to believe that she had any ability whatsoever to run this country, which in its essence is an absolute and outright joke. She had the capacity to even answer a question that wasn't scripted. Wait, was that Biden or Kamala? Sorry. Oh, wait, they're one and the same. But yet you still achieved millions on top of millions of votes. I know some will argue it's just simply those who didn't want Trump. So you were going to put Kamala Harris in power? That's not normal. But the mainstream media is promoted, not easy for me to say, sorry, non-normalcy. So much so that now Politico has to come out. The resistance is not coming to save you. It's tuning out. Well, now that's a paradigm shift. One much different than Trump's first election, where they went on immediate attack. It was actually a prior article they did just a few months ago. Actually, no, earlier this month. I apologize. Trump could come back. Resistance might not. You see, they already predicted this. I think people would probably be shell-shocked and maybe almost immobilized by what happened, said David Brock, the conservative turned liberal impresario behind a variety of anti-Trump efforts. You know how much we despise David Brock here. Brock told me that, in contrast to the donations windfall of 2017, the demoralization could make it very difficult to keep some of these large progressive organizations funded robustly. People will look back on that, and I think it didn't work because they lost faith. They realized everything they had been fed was a lie. Because by such an astounding majority, the people spoke, and wait, now we didn't do our job well enough. These people saw through our lies. These people realized that everything we've been feeding them was propaganda and agenda in the military media complex, now wasn't it? But back to the origin article. On TV, after beating CNN on election night for the first time ever, MSNBC saw its audience plummet. In the 6 days after the election, Democrats' favorite network tumbled from its 2024 primetime average by 36%. CNN was off by 19%, but Fox, it grew. It exceeded its typical 2024 number by 56% because there was an awakening. Finally, people have accepted the fact. And by the way, if you had membership of conservative on those platforms, and you had every conservative, who is exactly tuning in now? You found that many more conservatives? Nah, not true. No, you had people turning. And see, that's the underlying report that nobody's telling you, because now the left and the centrists, maybe, some of them are looking around saying, wait now, these folks have been lying to us the whole time. They've been manipulating the truth. Maybe some of those on the right, although I can't despise them, maybe they were right. Why did we do this? Why did our government do this? How did our government do this? And would it do it to us someday? You see, those are how you get those big percentage changes. There are also signs of a post-election exodus from Elon Musk's X, with media figures like MSNBC's Nicole Wallace, NPR, announcing plans to pull back from a platform increasingly associated with far-right content. You see, they still can't control themselves. Associated with free speech content. It's hard to say. I know you're the mainstream media. It's very hard to say that although you were based on the right to free speech, it's the very reason you exist, that you have to support free speech. I know it's hard. You probably just vomited in your toilet. I hope you did, because you need to. Because you're the furthest thing from free speech that anyone in this country has ever seen. No, it's a propaganda machine is what it was, and everybody's waking up to that. Even Aaron Rupar, the journalist best known for posting viral lefty videos on the platform, told me this week that his follower count had fallen by 40,000 since Election Day. The awakening's happening, and resistance is futile. But it's not a resistance of Donald J. Trump. It's a resistance of fact, reality, truth, and normalcy. Period. I talked to a dozen editors last week to check in with them and to see what they were planning to do with all the political books in the Trump era. And what did they say? They were all exhausted at the thought of doing more anti-Trump books. You know why? Because they're not selling. Because people are tired of being shoveled bullshit. End of story. Nobody's going to accept it anymore. And Trump, with the accelerator down, will assure that they can't breathe to even attempt to catch up. What initiative are you going to try to attack? Will Trump make mistakes? Absolutely. Will there be people caught up in the crossfire? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, and Politico said it best, this time there's no menacing foreign power to expose, archaic constitutional provision to bemoan, or bumbling FBI director to blame, because Trump cleared them all out. And there's no sense of anomaly either. The people, in their wisdom, made Trump the legitimate president. About the only piece of establishment unfairness to snipe about is the unthinking media tendency to describe his 50.1% as a popular landslide. Instead, the signature anti-Trump media output of the month has been mea culpas from commentators who got it wrong. Not exactly a genre to make a grieving Harris voter tune in. Resistance is futile. And Trump is showing through his effectiveness and rapid-fire shock and awe campaign that America, we have a whole lot more to show you. And we still have the DOJ to contend with, and that's just beginning. And we still have the FBI to contend with, and that's just beginning. And we still have to dig through the CIA, and that's just beginning. And then we got to get through our military-industrial complex, and that's just beginning. And then I think Big Pharma may have a few questions to answer, and that's just beginning. What we've seen in the last couple of weeks has been extraordinary, but it's just beginning. And every maneuver that they bring about, I will continue to cover, because we must always continue to expose the truth, and it came with great financial loss for us, beyond what I could even express. Days we looked at each other and wondered if we should just pack it up, because, man, there's a lot of other things we could have been doing to probably profit a whole lot more. But at the end of the day, our moral compass and our commitment to you carried us forward. Given up a lot from where we used to be, because for 4 years they destroyed us in every effort, in every way. But what did we do rather than walk away? We doubled down. We built a platform. Some of you are sitting on it right now, Restricted Republic. Didn't really have the funds to do that. We found a way to make it work. Of course, for everything there's a trade-off, right? But it grew. Thanks to each and every one of you who joined it. I can't tell you how much appreciation Lisa and I have for you. And for everyone who supported us with a pat on the back as you walk by and say thank you. That's what kept us going. But now we get our reward through little clips and through little reminders like this.
Oh, hold on. I think I'm going to have to hand this off.
Oh, you handed off to truth a long time ago, Rachel. You handed off integrity a long time ago. And sorry that now you are all so defeated that resistance is futile. But the best part about it is it's only just begun. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.